go. Hello, my name is Bryce Tubbs. With me today is Clare Downham, and she is guiding stressed out professional women on a unique journey to confidence, clarity, and inner peace by getting them off the self-development hamster wheel. I'm so excited to have this conversation. We've already been talking for probably about 10 minutes already with a really great conversation. So thanks so much for coming on the show today, Clare.
No, you're welcome. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And for those watching, if you're watching this from any location that is outside of our free community, I just want to personally invite you inside. It's taken a tremendous amount of time and energy to cultivate such a positive group of people who want to see each other succeed. So if that is what you have been maybe lacking in these times of distance, come and join us inside by clicking the link either above or below. We'd love to have you inside. Now, Clare, let me ask you this question. What was life like before you got into coaching, training, and hypnotherapy? And what was the catalyst that brought you into the space?
So I was a head teacher in a primary school. So in the UK, that's a 3 to 11 age school. I had been in education, worked in education for 20 years. In March 2015, after a series of big changes in my life, including a marriage breakup and taking on a massive promotion, I burnt out. So I went to work one day, looked at my computer, decided I couldn't do it anymore, and walked out and never went back. So I was diagnosed with depression, but I actually had adrenal burnout. So I'd actually broken my adrenal gland from being very stressed for a very long time. I then had a year off work, which is mind-blowing when I think about not working for a year. And on the 1st of April Fool, I resigned from my 20-year career whilst sat on a bus randomly, as you do. And 10 days later, I got an invitation to train to be a hypnotherapist. So that's what I did. So that's how I stepped out of my original career into something completely new. And then in the last year or so, probably starting about this time last year, actually, I stepped more into the coaching space. Doing kind of traditional coaching, training, NLP, that kind of thing. But then in January, came across a set of psychological principles about how the mind works and how we create our reality, which has not only completely changed my headspace and my life, but is now beginning to dramatically impact on the people I work with.
Let me ask you this question. So one thing that really so when you had the adrenal gland that really got out of whack, were you able to kind of get it back to normal, or does it regenerate, or is it you're permanently done?
Yeah. So so what was interesting in that part of my journey was that I was diagnosed with depression. The National Health Service here doesn't really recognise adrenal burnout as a thing. So I then went to see complementary therapists to get support with my adrenal glands. And I in fact I was a vegetarian, well, I still don't eat meat, but I was really strict vegetarian at the time. And I was given a choice between taking herbal tablets and taking tablets that were made out of animals' adrenal glands. And I went for the latter because the guy said, look, these will get you better faster because your adrenal gland just needs something to get it back up to running properly. And they stank like dog food, and they were massive as well. They were horrible, but I took them anyway. But it probably took longer for me to recover than it should have done, because I was diagnosed with depression. And I then spent a lot of time reading about depression and becoming very good at spotting my signs of depression, and very focused on trying to fix the depression, and wore that label with a great deal of attachment, like many people do once they have a label around mental illness. And I suspect now I know what I know about how we create our reality through our thinking. The more I thought about depression, the more I read about it, the more I learned about it, quite possibly the more depressed I became. and it's only recently when I look back on that situation that I think, probably it would have ended sooner. I would have been well sooner if I hadn't been so hooked into that label and into trying to fix myself. and focusing on that situation, focusing on that particular condition of depression in order to do that.
Okay. That's good. Okay. That's really good though. Cause like, I was like, ooh, if that was like a permanent thing, cause that's kind of cool. That means that you can help other people who have like burnout in the adrenal gland really kind of heal faster too. That's cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't tend to get involved in. I would hope to catch people before they fall into adrenal burnout, because that's not a place you want to go. It's not pretty, and it involves, really flat, being very flat and having not very much energy. So I would hope to catch people before that. But I think what has become my focus now is that, because I've spent the last 4 years trying to still fix myself. So trying to sort out my limiting beliefs, and why do I procrastinate, and what's going on with my relationship with food, and almost ending up with this ridiculous list of things. So in addition, I've got jobs to do for my business and jobs to do, I've still got kids, they are adults, but they still need me, and I have a house to run, and I've got a fiance, and I've got all sorts of things I need to have kind of on the boil. And then in addition to that, I used to have this ridiculous list of things I needed to fix about me. And I don't think I'm the only woman who feels that way, or the only person who feels that way. My main focus is around women who are trapped in that cycle. And that's the thing about the hamster wheel of self-development, is that I think we end up with just not being okay with us and who we are, and continually trying to fix ourselves, when in actual fact, it's just our thinking about how we are that's causing the problem. And we're only ever a thought away from there not being a problem anymore. And I want to help people just be okay with themselves and not feel like they are a continual project to be continually working on themselves all the time.
Yeah, because I think before we were talking about, I think the concept of inner peace versus being happy, because oftentimes we'll hear a lot of people say, it's not about money, I just want to be happy. But then you took it a step further to really, thinking about what happiness is, whether it's just like spiking versus inner peace, which can be more consistent, and learning how to deal with ebbs and flows. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, the kind of spiritual teacher who is the kind of founder of all the Inside Out understanding, a guy called Sydney Banks, he said, if the only thing we could learn was to not be afraid of our experience, that on its own would change our lives. And let's take depression for an example. So I could get very caught up in how I feel today. So as I came out the other side of the illness, I could still kind of wake up in the morning and think, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't feel like, oh no, I'm depressed again. And get really caught up in, well, I'll need to do something about that. I must fix myself in, there's something else. Do I need to meditate for longer? Or should I do more gratitudes? Or should I do some affirmations? Or do I need to go for a run? Or, just always caught up in, well, I feel a bit off today. And then having a pile of thinking about that, which, trust me, does not make it go away. Whereas now I can wake up in the morning, feel a bit off it, and just go, I feel a bit off it. That's okay, because I'm just human. And it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to have days where you don't feel motivated, whatever that is. I feel that's a made up concept, but that could be a whole other interview. Or I don't feel confident. Why do we think we've got to feel a particular way to get on with our lives? It's just made up in our thinking that we have to be a particular way to do what we want to do in life. And we get very caught up in that. And I think the peace comes from, a couple of places. It comes firstly from just being okay with what is, whether that's internally, how you're feeling, or what's going on in the outside world. And it comes from just taking stuff off your mind. So recently for me, that's been about judgment. I was the queen of judgment. Everybody was doing it wrong because they weren't doing it my way, and I could get very caught up in other people not doing it right, life, because they weren't doing it how I thought they should. And as I let go of that, as I let go of judgment, it's another peace. It's another little bit of peace and quiet in my head, because it's just one less thing to think about. And just running our lives day to day, we have enough to think about. And the more we let go of, I think the quieter we feel, and the more peace we feel. And I think that's distinct from happiness, which I think sometimes has a kind of woo-woo, cappy, clappy thing about it. And what I have now is just a very nice, steady line. No dramatic ups, no dramatic downs, just this sense of everything's okay and I'm okay.
There's a lot inside. That's kind of cool, you know? It's like, let me ask you this question. So if we're just sailing kind of like a ship at sea, tongue twister there. Like, that's interesting. So it kind of feels, so is it like you're floating through life? Like don't you want spikes of excitement every once in a while? Don't you want, like, you know what I mean? Or
I don't know. I don't like.
that's how, like, that's why it's like, oh, interesting.
I just don't feel I need drama in
No
any
one,
way. Like,
wait,
I don't
excitement
need
to
the
drama.
drama down, and I don't need the drama up. I just don't. I just feel. I just like, for me, just feeling okay. And it doesn't mean I do get excited about
Oh, okay,
things. I
okay. I
do
was
feel
gonna
happy
say.
about things. I do get up in my head and really cross about things. You know, that happens. But what happens now is, because I realize that I'm the awareness of my thinking, I am not my thinking. My thinking isn't me. That is not part of me. It is just something that is passing through me. With that awareness, I just come down a lot faster. So whereas previously I would have a long rant about something and get really caught up in what I was making up about a situation and how so and so should have done it that way and why the heck didn't they, and da 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 da, and make up a lot of stuff in my thinking. Now I just tend to do less of that, and it's become quite a selfish thing, actually. I think it makes me a better person to be around, but also for me personally, if I know my thinking is taking me off a nice feeling, if it's taking me into a horrible feeling, then why continue to have that thinking? I'm only hurting myself, and that seems a bit pointless these days.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense, because I was like, because if you have the line, I was like, so that means that if you can be really great at bringing yourself back to positive, then it's just like boom, boom, boom. That's kind of cool. How long did it take you to
Yeah,
really?
go on.
How long did it take you to really start developing? Is it first an awareness that you get, and then you start noticing, or is it more like you have a set of steps that you go through?
So the way I came into this understanding and began to, so this is very different from every other kind of therapy. So most therapies you come across, you will take an issue, let's take anxiety for an example, and you will poke and prod at that issue in an attempt to unfurl it, to find out where it came from, to look at its history, to look at the triggers, to perhaps teach the client some techniques to help them to manage that anxiety. So all you're doing all the time is going, anxiety's here, look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it, over and over again, because everything you're doing is cycling around this anxiety issue, and it's all talking about the anxiety. And strange to relate, that often makes people feel worse because all the time it's like, you know, when you don't really think you should be eating the chocolate bar, and the chocolate bar's like in your mind, and you're having this conversation about the chocolate bar, shall I eat it, shall I eat it, and in the end you eat it because you've thought about it so much you can do nothing else. So whenever we focus on something that's in our lives that we don't want to be in our lives, we end up focusing on that thing, and we focus on it more and more, and it just gets bigger and uglier a lot of the time. Whereas this understanding is about looking in the opposite direction to really the principles, and these are psychological principles, which they are the only psychological principles, as opposed to other ideas about where something might have come from. It's very different, because everybody 100% of the time is creating their thinking, creating their experience through their thinking. So when I came into this understanding, I was really caught up in my thinking about procrastination. So I thought that I had some really good days when I was really on it and really productive and felt really great about myself, and then other days when I wasn't, and I was procrastinating, as I labelled it up. And when I went to see a coach who coaches in this way, he kind of said to me, well, what if that's okay? What if it's just that's kind of what you need to do next, and there's something wiser than your to-do list that exists within you that's guiding you to just do what feels right next. And so that was how that conversation started, and that just settled with me really quickly, just because what he said to me was, the more you think about this idea of you procrastinating, the more you will probably see it happening, because that proving part of your brain will keep noticing when you're off task or not doing what you think you should be doing. And then on the back of a few coaching sessions with this gentleman, I then read and learned a lot more about this understanding. And that's really all there is to do in terms of this understanding. When I work with somebody, it's about pointing them away from the issue towards the understanding, and also pointing them towards things they can read and listen to. So Michael Neal, who you may or may not have heard of, is the main teacher that I kind of follow in this understanding, although there are lots of other teachers that I connect with. Jamie Smart's another one, who help people using this understanding. And what Michael Neal often says, he just says, stay in the conversation. So it's one of those drip approaches where, just listen to something for a few minutes every day, listen to somebody else explaining it in a different way, and then it just works like magic without needing to do anything, without needing to do a tool or a technique or a strategy of any kind, which is nice because it just takes a whole lot of stuff off your mind.
Cool. Where can people go to either learn more about you? Where can they go to connect with you further?
Yes, I've got a website, which is uniquejourney.co.uk. I'm on social media things as well, but that's probably a good place to start because all my social media links are on there too. I've got a little ebook on there, which is quite nice, that has got some of the kind of underlying principles of this understanding that'll help people understand better where I'm coming from. I've also got a nice little Facebook group, which is called A Unique Journey to Inner Peace, so that's quite a nice place to check out what I'm talking about. There's lots of stuff already on there. So.
Nice. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate coming, just listening to you and just having you share your story with us today.
No worries. I've enjoyed it.
Excellent. And for those watching, we thoroughly hope that you had found this enjoyable. Now, once again, if you're looking for a place where people are improving themselves and helping others do the same, I recommend you go check out our free community. I'm going to put some links either above or below the video. Now, in these times we're in, we're maybe separated from the people who support us the most in our business, maybe our mentors. If you want to go get around people that actually want you to go and reach your goals a little bit faster, come and join us inside. Because I know that, when you're around the wrong support system or people that are maybe bringing you down, then you don't hit your goals as fast as what you probably could. So if that's what you've been missing out on in your life, come and join us by clicking the link either above or below the video. We would love to have you inside. Now, hopefully you enjoyed watching this as much as we enjoyed creating it. Feel free to hit the share button so other people can get some great value as well. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. We will see you in the next video. Done recording in 3 and 2 and 1 and